Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Subscription Show. I am Tim, here today with Lance on a Monday, September 25th, fresh off our trip to CrimeCon. What's up, Lance?
Tell you what, I'm feeling good. Whew, now I'm feeling excellent.
Okay. Those who are listening to this may recognize a different song here right now. That's because this is the Subscription Show. This is what you get on Crawlspace Premium. This is our weekly bonus show that's also bundled with Missing and Dark Valley, where we give you a little bit of a behind-the-scenes peek of life here at Crawlspace Media, our episodes of the week, and our thoughts on the crime coverage in the news, but mostly the episodes that we've released.
And for those who haven't experienced the Subscription Show, yes, we do have angels here, and they do sing. They do sing us in. We ride on the melodic, vocal wonderments that come from these angels, and we ride on these vocal waves all the way to your ears. So hopefully everyone was just enlightened right there. Yeah, it's a Monday. Usually we do these towards the end of the week, Thursdays or Fridays, and I'm doing great. Coming off of CrimeCon, settling in back home. Happy that I was able to change my flight because the Monday flight definitely would not have been here by now, so I wouldn't have been able to do this. So I was able to change the flight to Sunday. While it was always bittersweet to leave CrimeCon, it's very nice to get another one in the books and be able to walk away from it and say, wow, what an experience. So, yeah, it was fantastic. How are you, Tim? Do you still have some of that CrimeCon voice left? I feel like I do, too.
I don't know. I hope not. I was just recording Sunday's Crawlspace episode, so I was trying to warm up my voice before this conversation. So I hope not. I hope I'm good to go. But yeah, what a weekend! It was a whirlwind of a weekend down in Orlando, Florida, CrimeCon 2023. We had a presentation with Jennifer Amell, our friend and coworker here at Crawlspace Media, Jennifer Amell, who produced Dark Valley, which is the newest podcast from Crawlspace Media. We did a panel about Dark Valley with Jennifer and with Jane Boroski. Jane Boroski was 7 months pregnant when she was attacked by the unknown and unidentified Valley Killer from the Connecticut Valley region in New Hampshire and Vermont.
Stabbed 27 times, and for those who haven't listened to Dark Valley, you might be thinking to yourself, why do they keep talking about Dark Valley? Why does this keep coming up? It is an amazing show, and we're very happy with it, and we're proud of it, and we're proud of Jen, and we're proud of Jane, and everybody who took part in that. It's taken off in a way that we couldn't have imagined, one that we really wanted it. You know, the result was what we wanted, but you sort of want to temper your expectations when you're launching a new feed, and it lived up to and exceeded expectations, and there's more going on behind the scenes now. So if you have listened and you're like, how dare you end it the way it was ended, apologies, but that's how it had to end, because that's how the story sort of, I don't know, chapter 1 sort of came to an end there. I mean, it was really happening in nearly real time. So there's some stuff going on now. There's some season 2 material, dare I say.
And that was a comment we heard several times at CrimeCon this week, was that I can't believe that that season 1 ended on such a cliffhanger. There has to be a season 2. Several folks came up to our booth this weekend and said. But also, Lance, in that presentation that we did, that Dark Valley presentation, we were joined by Jane, yes, but also Jane's daughter, Jessica, and Jane's granddaughter, Cheyanne. And that was unbelievable, because the presentation really kind of wraps up with sort of a look at a survivor of this violent attack, but also 2 generations beyond her. And we're actually really 2 survivors of that attack, because Jane was pregnant with Jessica. So they both survived. Jessica obviously was a baby at the time, but fought for her life.
Yeah, and Jane brought it up during the panel that not only did she fight for her life right after birth, or right at the attack. She was fighting for her life while she was still inside Jane. After the birth, she fought for her life, but then she kept fighting through her life as she went to school, and she was trying to deal with bullies and graduating high school and just trying to fit in with the other kids. It was always a battle for her, and she is such a fighter, and Jane is such a fighter. But then along comes Cheyanne, Jessica's daughter, and Jane's granddaughter, and listening to Jane describe how much of a miracle Cheyanne is because Jessica is in the final episode of Dark Valley is like, it's, use the word again, it's very bittersweet because everybody has survived, but it's like heart-wrenching to hear what has been the battle, to hear what that battle has been for everybody. But the third generation of this, Cheyanne, I mean, come on, like she's an amazing kid.
Yeah, she is. She's 8, I believe, 8 or 9.
9.
And
she very confidently told the crowd at CrimeCon.
That's right. Yeah, that was so cool that she got to be a part of the presentation as well with her mom and grandmom. So yeah, I think hopefully we'll be able to get that audio, and we will try to get that audio from CrimeCon and bring it to the Dark Valley feed, maybe the Crawlspace feed too. But we will see. Definitely look out for that.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good opportunity to thank CrimeCon, not only for allowing Cheyanne to be there because it's an 18-plus event. So we had done a version of this presentation at LaDonna Humphrey's True Crime Fest in Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas, the Northwest Arkansas True Crime Fest, and it went over really well. So we wanted to do that on the stage that is CrimeCon, and Kevin, who's the organizer of CrimeCon, him and Elise, they do an amazing job, asked on a scale of 1 to 10 how important is Cheyanne, and he knew he said, you know, I want to make this happen, but I just need something to tell people when they say, why is there a child here, so he can not have to have people think that he's just giving things up for no reason. So he said, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is Cheyanne? And honestly, I think we said like 8. She's an 8. We can do it without her, but with her is really going to send the message of this panel. And he signed off on it. And yeah, we followed the rules. She was there for the panel, and then she had some fun with Drew's mom. Drew is one of the hosts of Invisible Tears. So they had fun at water parks and just did the whole Orlando thing. But yeah, if without her, it would have been a really good panel. With her, it puts that like exclamation point on the message that we were trying to send. So big thanks to Kevin for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Big thanks to CrimeCon, Kevin and Elise. And yeah, that was on the Glassbox stage. So big thanks to Glassbox for supporting that too. That was pretty cool. And Lance, yeah, it was a whirlwind of a weekend. We were also nominated for a Clue Award, which we had mentioned on these airwaves. We unfortunately did not win this Clue Award, but some very worthy people did. It was the show Dateline Missing in America. Keisha Jacobs and Keisha's mom was there, and Jessica Knoll also accepted the award. So big congrats to them for the win. You know, we would have been really cool for us to win, but we did not expect it. It truly was an honor to be nominated. So thanks to CrimeCon and Glassbox for submitting us, and for anyone who voted, because I do know that there were voters. There was a judge panel that was listed on the site. So big thanks to everyone who heard Crawlspace and voted for us. That was really cool to be nominated in such amazing company. And fun awards show as well. And our friends Brett and Alice of the Prosecutors podcast won the People's Choice Award, which was pretty cool. They claimed to be surprised, but I don't know how they could have been too surprised about that. They certainly connect with their audience in a wonderful way. They're very humble. They also thanked us profusely after when we congratulated them on their win. It's all we owe this to you. And the backstory there is we had them on Missing years ago, talking about Maura Murray, talking about Asia Degree. But it was really their Maura Murray coverage that sort of helped kick the hornet's nest a little bit, and so I guess that they really thank us for introducing us to our audience. But I started getting annoyed when they was, because I feel like they say this every year, and then after we congratulate, I'm just like, shut up! I don't want to hear that. Just take the congratulations, Jesus.
Yeah, we're not congratulating you to hear it back to, for us. It's not that at all. And
right.
Honestly, many shows go on shows that are, so if you start a show and you don't have as many listeners because you just started it, that's natural, and you go on a bigger show and then you get listeners from that show, you have to maintain those listeners, and those listeners have to spread the word and say this is a great show. So, I mean, sure, yeah, they come on the show, they do a great job, but after the fact, they've maintained for years and they've grown. So there's something there. They would have been at this level had they not been on our show, but it would have just taken a little bit longer. So they have that chemistry. They're probably two of the best duos in podcasting, at least in like the top 5. They have a great chemistry. So that speaks a lot to.
Yeah, so it was a great awards show. We got to hang out with a lot of people at the after party as well. Aaron Habel of the Generation Y was definitely yucking it up with him quite a bit. He claims he's never ever heard Matchbox 20. Lance, I don't.
It's not true.
I had a real negative reaction to this. I just can't believe it. It's not.
It doesn't mean you have to like Matchbox 20, but
right.
Did you just not listen to the radio once in the 90s?
That is what he said. He actually says that is how he's never heard Matchbox 20. Yeah.
I wonder what other bands he hasn't heard. Like, has he ever heard any songs by Smashing Pumpkins?
I don't know about the Pumpkins, but there was a few other bands that came up. I think someone mentioned Train. He's like, nope, never heard of it. And I'm like, I really dislike that band, but they were all over the place. You can't miss them.
I know. Yeah.
They were in movies, I don't know. I think Aaron at least remembers the Santana and Rob Thomas song "Smooth,"
which is now in my head for the next week and a half.
Yeah, you're welcome. So that was a lot of fun. Always fun hanging out with podcasters. I feel like the best time to really get a good conversation going is the Sunday morning at the end of CrimeCon, because during the conference, it's so busy. You get like maybe a pocket of a minute or 2 minutes, maybe a few times during the conference with the people you want to talk about, but that's it. Like, it's capped. On Sunday, though, it's a little bit slower on Podcast Row, and that's when you kind of really get to make connections. And I really like to go around and talk to everybody in the entire ballroom. I like to talk to all the podcasters and all the exhibitors and get their cards. And, we're going to have a lot of guests on from CrimeCon, people that we met there or people that we reconnected with there. So definitely expect a lot of our, I would say, November and end of year programming to be focused around the folks that we came across at CrimeCon.
Yeah, it's the end of the year, Q4 programming, post CrimeCon, which will be fun. And yeah, you were saying about like getting together with the other creators after the Clue Awards, and it just reminded me, one of the things that I love about CrimeCon and doing these events, especially ones that are very nonstop, like you're going pretty much nonstop until the end of the day, the beginning of the day right to the end of the day. So
there's nowhere to hide.
There's nowhere to hide. Unless you can pop out behind the curtain behind your table for two minutes. But after all of that, you get to hang out with these people who talk about true crime, and when we talk about things with them that are not true crime related, like I had a great conversation going with a bunch of people about horror movies.
Yeah.
And we all realized that we were fans of horror movies, and we were talking Texas Chainsaw and Nightmare on Elm Street. And then we got into like, B horror movies and really like deep cut horror movies. And I thought that was amazing because you get to experience the personalities of these people beyond the true crime conversation. And you really make some lifelong friends when you do that. And it was really cool to see the regulars there. It wasn't the same CrimeCon without folks like LA Not So Confidential. They weren't able to make it, so it kind of felt it was a hole in my heart there because they weren't there. But we were positioned 2 tables down from Women Be Crime and Women and Crime, everybody. And it just started off. It started off ridiculous. And we were definitely the noisy corner.
Yes, yeah, we probably were. Yes, Amy and Megan, the wonderful criminologists of Women in Crime, their sign above their table said "Women Be Crime" instead of the "and" symbol, and so a lot of jokes about that because when they weren't there, they put the sign on their table said "Women Be Gone,"
women be back, women be at lunch.
Yeah, they're hilarious, and yeah, we got to have them back on too. To help us, I don't know, break down something. We got to reconnect with them again because they're so fun to have on.
Absolutely. I would love to do like a live show with them because I feel like in person, when you're reading the conversation and you're reading their reactions, like there's a really good, because they are the female version of us. So we know the comic timing with them.
Right.
One more thing about them. I knew they were popular, but my God, their table, like throw some listeners our way, for God's sake. You look over and they had thought we were sitting next to True Crime Garage.
Yeah, and True Crime Garage only Nick made it this time. I was messaging a little bit with Captain. It was sad that we didn't get to see him this time, but Nick was there, and Nick actually played a great, like very, very quick joke on us at our table.
Dude, it was top 5 CrimeCon moments. I told him that's top 5 CrimeCon moment for me.
So he approaches our table and he's like, "Hey guys, what's going on?" And he's got an eye patch on. And we had seen him the day before and talked to him very briefly. But there was no eye patch the day before, but he had an eye patch on Saturday. And we were like, "What's going on? Are you all right?" He's like, "No." It's like, "I hurt my eye." We're like, "No way." He's like, "What happened?" He's like, "I don't know, but it's fallen out a little bit."
It's falling, and I think like that's the key to the practical joke. Though his tone was quiet.
Yeah.
He was leaning in a little bit, and he didn't say like, "I popped my eye out." He said it's kind of fallen out a little bit, like it's like pushed out. So it gives you that like real horrific image already. And he's like, yeah, check it out. You want to see?
And he leans in and he slowly removes the eye patch, and his eye looks totally normal. And he was just laughing at us for believing him for a moment there.
Well, he was so convincing, and then he lifts the eye patch, and it was probably 3 seconds of like, I don't want to see this, but I do want to see this, but I don't know what I'm going to do. And I don't want to react and make him feel bad that his eye's bugging out of his head. But it's totally fine. But like our reaction and oh my God, it's too funny. My God.
That was a lot of fun. And I also want to say just about the weekend as a whole, we love standing at the table, speaking to listeners. It is like an amazing feeling. It actually really gives me energy for the rest of the year because this is what I say there sometimes. Like for 362 days a year, like I'm alone. Like we're on Zoom. We talk, once a day or whatever it is. We do interviews, but we're mostly solitary doing our jobs. So we put something out to the world. We rarely really hear stuff. You hear some comments on social media, some comments on YouTube, things like that. People mention they listen sometimes, but it's amazing to hear when people come up to you and say that they listen. They mention certain episodes, like the recent episodes they listen, because when you're alone doing this job, it's easy to feel like nobody's listening. Even though you see the numbers, you see people are listening. I feel like it's just easy to forget that, you're speaking with real listeners out there, and CrimeCon is always a wonderful reminder of how we impact people, and we get a lot of thank yous at CrimeCon, which is, again, it's like a heartwarming feeling. So I just wanted to say big thank you to everyone who came up to us and said hello, asked us what we do, or commented or said they were a listener or a fan or something like that. It really means a lot. It really, truly does.
Yeah, it's like the justification. It's the result of the work, and you get that, and it motivates you to do better, to keep up the standard and for whatever whatever that is, like, raise the bar, do better, make sure that the people who are out there and listening and came up and complimented and thanked, that they have a reason to again next year. And I want to say thanks to the people who went to CrimeCon because they had some tragedy in their life, a missing loved one, a brother, a sister, a daughter, a mother, a father, or they knew somebody who was the victim of abuse. The many, many, many people who will come up and they'll say, can you place these on your table and encourage people to scan the code or take one of these printouts. This is my daughter. This is my best friend. This is my mom. They've been missing since 1992, and we're more than happy to do that. And I love seeing that CrimeCon is that place where people can put that material out there, and people do take that. Other CrimeCon attendees will take that. Other people in law enforcement, there's a ton of law enforcement there, they'll take it. So you just never know who's going to pick up these cards, pick up these flyers. And many times we're like, give us the information. If the family wants to talk, we'll have them on the show. And it's really cool to be able to do that. And to be able to say, are the parents, or is this person someone who is comfortable talking about the situation, and would they want to come on? And 99.9%, if you're getting that information from people who are attending CrimeCon, that's what they're doing it for, the publicity. And yeah, we do want to come on the show, and we're happy to make that another result of the all those days that we are alone and recording on our own.
Yeah, it really is a great feeling. And all those family members who come by and drop something off, we absolutely love to reach out. I mean, they're showing great effort to get to Orlando, to advocate for their loved one's case. The least we can do is have a conversation with them and put that on our show. So we're happy to do that. And especially the flyers. I mean, that's even less effort on our part. We're happy to help. There was a woman who messaged us, and she had creators drop off some flyers about her missing brother, Vladik. It's Brian Vladik Hassel, who was missing from East Orlando, missing since November of 2021. And there's more on the hashtag Team Vladek, VLADEK. Yeah, I think we'll probably have his sister on to speak about this. Again, it's just one of many flyers that we were given. Haley Gray, researcher Haley Gray, had asked us if we could put Leon Loralis's flyer on the table, and of course we did that. And Leon Loralis is a case that we covered maybe a couple of years ago on Crawlspace. Very tragic unsolved murder. There was Dornette Mullings, who is the twin of this man here, who is Calvin Berry, who was killed in Port St. Lucia, Florida. And there's a hashtag there. You can learn a little bit more about that. It's Justice for the number 4 Calvin. And she says his death was suspicious, and it is not being treated as such by the police. So that is another one that we will hopefully have on the show.
Yeah, and I got a couple. It was really nice to see Tony Lawrence.
Yeah.
Who, she gave us these playing cards that feature Dale Williams, who's been missing since 1999. And we'll have her back on the show because, well, first of all, it was really great to meet her in person.
Yeah. Yeah, she's wonderful.
Yeah, and you have conversations with people, via Zoom or, maybe not even seeing their face. And then to see someone in person, and then you hear the voice, and she's really maintained such a great positive attitude.
She really has
throughout this entire ordeal. So yeah, it'll be wonderful to have her back on as well.
Yeah, and she had mentioned that there's a new investigator who is doing a really great job, a job that she was complimenting. So that is always something we love to hear, and honestly, we don't hear it enough. So that was great. to hear that from Tony. So I think we'll have her back on Missing. We covered Dale Williams' case, I want to say, in 3 episodes on Missing. Definitely more than a year ago, maybe more than 2 years ago. Tony was definitely joined us for at least one of those episodes. And she's a great advocate for her dad's case. He went missing from, I think this Nucla, Colorado. And it says here he was last seen in Naturita, Colorado, 1999. I thought it was Nucla, but yeah, it's somewhere in that area of Colorado.
Yeah, I think it's like, those are such small towns, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his truck was found. Yeah, it's definitely a very interesting case. And she's a wonderful advocate.
And we'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
Thanks to our sponsors, and now we're back to the program.
Got a really recent one, too, that dropped off some flyers. This person was last seen between May 28th of this year and June 1st of this year. So they sent one of their friends to CrimeCon with the information. This is Tanya Lee Whipp, and this is out of Auburndale, Florida. So they heard about CrimeCon on June 1st. So the last time they saw this person was June 1st, Tanya Lee Whipp, and they just jumped right on the CrimeCon opportunity and sent, I'm not going to give her first name, but her last name's Kerouac, which we thought was very, very cool. She was a relation to Jack Kerouac, and this is a advocate and a friend of the family. And she came back again after dropping off some flyers with the information to contact the family to have them on the show, and absolutely we'll have them on. But the Facebook for this is Help Find Tanya Whipp, and that's Whipp with 2 P's. And then you can get all the information on that Facebook. So looking forward to telling that story.
Yeah, great. And then, Lance, there was an old friend who we saw again. I think we've seen her at every CrimeCon. Her name is Sharon, and we definitely first met her in Indianapolis. I think that was the first CrimeCon. That was CrimeCon 2017, where her and I were actually asked to do a local news broadcast on the news channel. I forget what news channel, but somewhere in Indianapolis, to say the report was about, it was like CrimeCon has taken over Indianapolis. And it's so funny to think back at that, because I think like the first CrimeCon, they might have been, I think there was like 1,000 attendees or maybe up to 2,000, but I feel like it was 1,000 that first year. And to see how it's grown is unbelievable. So it's just funny to think like a news program covering that story. Then it's like, what is this? What are these criminals coming?
I know.
What are they, fans of serial killers? That's weird, isn't it? So like that was kind of the news story, but it's just become more normal. Like people, I think, understand what it is more than what it was then. So
yeah,
even though there were still the local news there covering it, I think it's a little more understood what it is. But anyway, Sharon has advocated for years for Jennifer Servo's murder. And she even created a podcast called Justice Delayed. And Jennifer Servo was murdered in 2002, just 61 days after moving to Abilene, Texas. And she was a news television reporter. And she was 22. And she was strangled and suffered blunt force trauma to her head. And so Sharon has been in contact with Jennifer's family. And yeah, again, she produced this podcast, Justice Delayed. And we would love to have Sharon on. So Sharon, if you're listening, right back to us, because I think we wrote to her last year, and I think she might have gotten cold feet or something. But yeah, let's do it this time.
Get on the show. Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm not going to do another CrimeCon where she comes up to us and talks about the case and we say, get on the show.
I know, every time.
Next CrimeCon comes around and she hasn't been on the show. I don't know. It's going to be hell to pay.
Good.
But we met Chapo too. Chapo the dog.
Yes, that was a really cool dog. Really sweet.
Oh God, it was a pit bull, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, but just a sweet, sweet dog. Second you start scratching this dog behind its ears, it like does that splooting thing where its back feet go out, its tail's just going nuts. And without getting into too many details, because it was sort of chaotic when that went down, and we will have the people on to talk about this missing individual. But essentially, a woman went missing in a foreign country, and she had 3 dogs, I believe, and Chapo was one of the dogs, and she was a friend of their family, and the dogs were left, so they needed dog sitters. So they went in different homes, I believe, and Chapo went to these people who went to CrimeCon to talk about this, and yeah,
what a story. Yeah. Definitely
sorry for the lack of detail on that, but it was a really chaotic time. And while they were telling us the story, we're petting the dog, and then we were like, all right, well, we'll get your contact info. Let's reconnect later on, and we can get you on the show to talk about it.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting story and very sad. Chapo the dog, there's a missing person in his family. It was Chapo's owner, so I think that's an important case to cover. As well. Yeah.
Yeah. And I took a picture of Chapo, and I'm going to just put it on the screen here. I don't know if this is going to make a YouTube, but that's Chapo right there.
Very cute dog. And speaking of animals, Lance, we were also approached by an author named Fred M. Cray. And he's got a website, fredmcray.com, Cray with a K. And I think he wrote a book. The book is called Broken, The Suspicious Death of Aldiar and the End of Horse Racing's Golden Age. And this is about a horse that died, and Fred believes the horse was murdered for insurance money. And these are two crime type stories that involve animals that I would love to cover, because I feel like it's not a typical story, that's for sure.
Absolutely not. And I think that that's super important to cover because it's unique, and it's also a murder for benefit that people do to people all the time. So it'd be really interesting to hear the motivations behind this one. And it's also a bit timely with all of those deaths of those horses at the Kentucky Derby and
right.
Remember that a few months ago, and all these horses were dying. And it's very tragic because something was going on there. I don't know. Maybe something's going to come up if we talk to this guy. Maybe he's looked into that one too, if this is something that is in his wheelhouse to research.
I mean, I guess I wouldn't be surprised to hear that it's prevalent in the horse racing circles, fraud. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. There's especially those racing horses, they only live to be a few years old. Some of them, they die. They're put down on the track. I believe one of them at the Kentucky Derby was put down right there on the track this past year. So yeah, that's pretty sad. I do feel bad for those horses, and hey, someone's got to advocate for horse murder too.
Yeah, I mean, there's billions of dollars in that. There's so much money that goes through that horse racing circuit.
And we met Jennifer Kesey's family, Lance. Jennifer Kesey went missing from Florida, Orlando, Florida. And Jennifer's uncle, Bill, wrote a book called Aftermath of Jennifer Kesey's Abduction, An Uncle's Quest for Understanding and Inspiring Life Lessons by Bill Gilmore. And the book isn't so much about her abduction, because he had said, he was like, you can find that online. Like, that's not, I'm not a journalist. I'm not doing the book about the crime. I'm doing the trauma about being in a family with a missing person, a missing loved one. So it's an interesting sort of approach to advocating for your missing loved one. I think a lot of people know about Jennifer Kesey's case and disappearance. I don't think we've ever covered her story on missing, but this could be a good one to cover. Maybe we'll have Bill on. I think it's always great to hear from family members, no matter really the direction. But I think his book is about healing, and it's about finding spirituality after such a sad trauma.
Yeah, and you and I had talked about this. The book is about healing, and it's about finding spirituality, but it is specifically about your relationship with God as you are healing through this terrible tragedy, and understanding the greater purpose of what God's plan is for you. Okay, You and I aren't very religious, and that's not something we lean into, but when people come on the show and they say things like God bless and it was God's plan, that is something that we support. That is the belief system that is very important to individuals to get through these tragedies. And just because one person isn't a believer in one religion or spiritual in a different way doesn't mean that doesn't mean that conversation should end there. So when we were talking about this, we were like, well, I don't know how we can contribute to this because I don't know these Bible verses. I don't know. I don't go to church on Sunday. But that's the point, right, of the award-nominated show Crawlspace, is to have these people on who don't have the same beliefs or opinions. You don't want to ever get stuck in that comfortable hammock of like everyone's talking about the same thing and we can all nod and say, yeah, that's the right way to do it. So yeah, anyway, long way to say we're going to have the guy on because he's going to challenge us.
Yeah, it's definitely going to open our minds a bit. And a comfortable hammock sounds great right now after a long weekend, Lance. Yeah,
I said that and I was like, that's where I want to be right now. If it wasn't pouring outside, I'd head out there to the hammock.
Yeah, definitely.
You just got a hammock, right?
I did. I love it. Oh my God, I don't use it enough. I mean, I use it often, but not enough. And Lance, we met the ladies of the Fruit Loops podcast that has been really kind of making the rounds on the Apple Podcasts app. I've seen them be featured, but they seem really great. It's Wendy and Beth who do the show, and it's all about serial killers of color. And we met them last year briefly and said we got to collab. This is a really interesting show you got. But it didn't happen. But this time I said, I know it didn't happen last year, but this time we're determined. It's got to happen. And They said, okay. And they gave me the card. So that's going to happen. Very excited to speak with Wendy and Beth pretty soon.
And they have one of the best logos out there right now. The Fruit Loops logo is great. Can you put that up onto your camera?
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely different. It's like a blood splat. And I mean, Fruit Loops, I guess.
They use a knife as a T, so it's like
right.
It's very effective as a logo. I would click on that regardless.
Yeah, and Jerry Williams from FBI Case Review. I was a little bit starstruck, I want to say, talking to Jerry briefly, but I really like her show, and she's a retired FBI agent and is so nice and is just like was really awesome to talk to. For even just a few minutes, but very excited. We got to find a really good topic for our conversation with her. But I know from just listening to her show, I was really into the Whitey Bulger, Gardner Heist stuff, and the FBI agent John Connolly, who was secretly tipping Whitey Bulger off about their investigation into him. I find that whole era fascinating. It happened in Boston, Massachusetts, which is maybe partially why I find it so fascinating, being from right up the street. But yeah, I would love to talk about that. Maybe if there's anything we can sort of roundtable with her about that, I think that would be fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like we're doing like a round of local seedy crime lately. We were having Jan Brogan on this week. We're going to be talking to her. We're going to have another episode about the combat zone. A while ago, we had an episode with Stephanie Shuro, who wrote the book The Combat Zone, and Jane Brogan also wrote a book more recently about the Combat Zone. So it would be great to have another conversation. And I agree with you that Whitey Bulger stuff just doesn't seem to get old. You can talk about that no matter where you're from, because so many people have so many thoughts and opinions, and it'll be great to. I don't think we're gonna have a lot of dead air on that one. That'll be good.
Yeah, I'm excited.
And Tim, did you have a cup of the criminal coffee?
I did not.
Oh, I wasn't sure. Every time I was going to go over to get a cup of criminal coffee, they were packed. They had a huge line, and I didn't have the opportunity until Sunday when I overheard Damsel Ninja Nancy rave about the coffee. She goes, nice. Holy molasses. This is the best cup of coffee I've ever had.
Wow.
And she was at her table, and she just was alone, and she took a sip, and she just set it out into the air. So I was like, okay, I have to make it a point to go over there, and they poured me a cup of the dark roast, and it is one of the best cups of coffee I've ever had. This is not a paid advertisement. It's the Criminal Coffee Company, and it was founded by Stephanie Harlow and Derek Lavassiere.
Mm-hmm.
And they were there with their team, passing out coffee, making coffee, and whew, it hit the spot. It was great. Smooth, not acidic, very complex, but not being overpowering. Very nice.
An unpaid ad for Criminal Coffee. But if you would like a paid ad, feel free to reach out to crawlspacepodcast@gmail.com. We'll forward you to our partners who handle that.
Yeah, feel free to reach out to the award-nominated Crawlspace Podcast. And we'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
Thanks to our sponsors, and now we're back to the program. And Derek there, one of the creators of that company, was I watched him on the TV show Big Brother, Lance. My wife has been a longtime Big Brother fan, and I never watched it until I guess getting together with her. But we watched the season that he was on. He was a detective. And he entered the Big Brother house, not telling anybody that he was a detective. And he really ran the game without them knowing it. It could, because you're stuck in a house with I think it's 15 other people. And, it's really the information game. It's, if someone gets caught in a lie, you're going to get voted out most likely, so it's a lot of the information game. And he was really running the house the entire time, but no one actually knew until like the last week when it was finally kind of presented that he was in a better position than everyone else. And it's like, wow. So that was actually probably the most impressive single performance by anyone that I've ever seen on that show. And I told him such last year at CrimeCon, but I didn't get a chance to talk to him this year. But just wanted to mention that because I told you and Jen that at the booth, and you're like, what? You're like, that guy? You're like, what are you talking about? Like, really? It's like, yeah.
Yeah. Very unassuming guy. And you know who else was very excited to meet him? More excited than anybody that they met. Jane Boroski.
Oh, wow.
Literally comes like Sunday as everybody's packing up. She comes running around, and she was like, you're never going to believe who I met. You're never going to believe who I met. And she said it, and I was like, oh, you're a fan? And she was like, am I a fan? She's like, he just took pictures with me. He was just talking to me. He said he would want to have me on his show if he's able to. I might be on his show. I might be on Derek's show. She was absolutely over the moon.
Now, was she a fan of his work in true crime or his work on Big Brother?
Big Brother. She basically said the same thing. Yeah, she was like, he was the best Big Brother contestant of all time, and basically said exactly what you said. Like, he was brilliant in his like mastering of the situation and coming out on top. And she was like, she said she didn't even know if she would have had the same reaction if she met Nancy Grace.
Right. Yeah, no, I get you. It was an impressive performance, I got to say, for someone who never watched that show, but he was great on it. So shout out to Derek and Stephanie.
Speaking of Nancy Grace, she pulled another badass Nancy Grace, very subtle badass Nancy Grace move at the Clue Awards. I don't know if you caught this, but they announced her to come out as a presenter for an award, and they mention her appearance on Dancing with the Stars, I believe. And so they make a comment about Dancing with the Stars, and Nancy comes out and she does her intro, and she brings everything up to like the contestants. And do you remember there was like a period of like a silence, like the camera was just on her. There was a beat of silence, nothing was happening, and she goes, oh, they wanted me to talk about Dancing with the Stars, but I'm not going to do that. And then at the right at the tail end of that, like, oh, they wanted me to talk about Dancing with the Stars, but I'm not going to. As she was saying it, they cut to, and the contestant, and the nominees are, and just a badass moment from Nancy Grace where she was like, I'm not going to do that joke. Sorry. So whatever was on the teleprompter, she was like, no,
Yeah, I mean, I was really jealous at the presenters at the Clue Awards because they got to use the teleprompters. That's like they get the two like clear things like that stand next to the podium, and you look from side to side, but you're not looking at the crowd. You're actually reading the clear screens that the audience could technically see through, but there are words there that you can read. And I really want to do that someday.
Oh my God! Oh, I'm throwing it out there. You and I have to present next year. We have to.
That would
present.
be great. Would love to.
Yeah. We'll have a really stilted conversation that'll be natural.
We'll say we're not going to talk about Nancy Grace's Dancing with the Stars appearance.
Yeah. Next year is Nashville again. Going back to Nashville. And I'm excited because Nashville is a wonderful city. And maybe, I don't know, maybe we should go down there a little early or stay like an extra day, do like a meetup or something.
Maybe. You know what? One thing I would love to do is head on to Othram, head on over to like the Austin, Texas area and visit the Othram labs. We're speaking with the Middlemans, Kristen and David Middleman, who I believe founded Othram Labs, and we introduced them to Jane Boroski as real life superheroes. It's kind of maybe become a little bit of a cliche, but we've said it here on the airwaves many times over the years that they really are true superheroes in this space. They are solving crimes that were otherwise known as unsolvable before the DNA and technical advancements and forensic genetic genealogy. We were talking to them about somehow cracking the New Hampshire State and Vermont State their cold case units and being able to access that DNA and send it to Othram Labs. Now, I know both states have worked with Othram Labs, but in the Connecticut River Valley murders, both states, we believe, have DNA evidence. And Othram is like, do you want us to get on the phone and beg them? Because we will. He's like, David's like, that's what I do. He's like, I spend most of my day begging law enforcement agencies to let us test your DNA. Guys, please, if there's anyone from the state police in either of those states listening, please connect. We do plan to try to connect you again with Othram, David and Othram Labs, but it's just so powerful seeing Jane Boroski, this attack victim, speaking with them. She's telling them her fingernails were scraped underneath after her attack. She believes there's DNA in her case. Please send it on over. Please work with Othram Labs. We have nothing to do with this. Othram needs to work with law enforcement directly. That's all we're asking. Just have a conversation. I think they can help.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the body of work. If there's law enforcement listening and they're like, what the fly-by-night company, this Othram Labs, no, it's not the case at all. They have solved Lady of the Dunes. They have solved, I mean, we could go on. And they've come close to solving other ones, and they are on the brink of solving other ones. And there's no reason why you shouldn't be receptive to their request. It'll clear your plates. It'll clear these cold cases off the books. And we also reconnected with Jared from the MVAC. I mean, that's another one. Like, he's saying that his business is rapidly increasing because law enforcement departments are accepting this technology. He has the essentially carpet cleaner style DNA extractor. So he's able to go to law enforcement, train them, and they're open to it. So if you're open to that, you're definitely open to Othram. If you see other law enforcement agencies being open to MVAC and Othram, for God's sake, what are you waiting for? Just close these cases. I mean,
yeah, there's a chance that one domino falls in those cases and they all fall because they could be connected. So I mean, that could be a wealth of cases just in one, back and forth mailing. DNAsolves.com. Check out what Othram does. Massachusetts has been working with Othram a lot recently, is what the Middleman said. They said they're one of their most popular clients right now. Of course, we brought the story of Granby Girl to the Missing podcast this year, and that was one of the big ones that Othram helped with the state of Massachusetts in the past 12 months. So Yeah. Don't even listen to us. Just go to dnasolves.com. Check it out.
Yeah, seriously. Like we're just the conduit for this information. Yes. So for the MVAC one, go to m-vac.com. Real easy to remember, m-vac.com. And between those two organizations, come on, like these are very solvable things that can be accelerated. Put
to great use. Yeah, the MVAC it extracted DNA from a rock and solved the case.
Yeah, next to a river.
That's unbelievable. Like, I didn't think that was possible. And if you're listening as law enforcement, you didn't think that's possible. It now is. This is one of the wonderful things about CrimeCon is you get to meet cutting edge, people working in cutting edge technology and ideas on how to solve crimes. Everyone wants these crimes solved. And I know the police do too. We know they do. This is, as far as we're concerned, it seems like one of the best ways to do it right now.
Yep. And just when we had decided to do this recap episode of CrimeCon, I was like, are we going to get an hour? We probably get like 30, 40 minutes out of this. It's
easy to get
coming up on an hour right now. Yeah. And there's still so much more to talk about. But I don't want to end this one without showing some appreciation to the organizers of CrimeCon, to Kevin and Elise and the entire team there, because they have taken the whole advocacy and being very, very aware and proactive in their treatment and their post CrimeCon weekend update and care for of victims, their families. And they had this under the radar advocate victim group, a meetup that happened. It was private and no one knows who was in there. Like, we know a couple because a couple of our friends were in there, but it was confidential. And like, I'm speechless that Kevin was in there with them. Elise was in there with them. They were talking about how to do this right. And it's just so inspirational.
I think it's great that the creators of CrimeCon are really encouraging a community of survivors and family members of victims of crime to sort of commune together. They're really giving them the opportunity to form this community. And I think it's beautiful. I really do. It's really nice. Yeah,
it really is. And it is a real community. It was great to see, and can't name them all, mostly because of privacy reasons, but it was great to see the people who have been attendees of CrimeCon since day one. The people who are the first ones to come up to our table since CrimeCon day one and explaining to us, like, I can't believe how this has grown. I can't believe how important everything is. Everything started off on a smaller scale, and now the things that were intended to be the reasons for people attending CrimeCon have just grown into things like that, like the survivors getting together to talk and have this like session. We weren't in it, so I don't even know how to really describe it, but yes, it's a beautiful thing, and it keeps growing because those original people are getting so much out of it, and they're telling their friends, and their friends are saying, oh, I know someone who has a family member who's missing. And then that's how it's growing. It's great.
Yeah.
Except John Lorden. God. Easy, John, with making everyone sign his cards and stuff. Poor Christy Arnhart. And
he's so generous.
And we didn't know he was doing the last episode of Crime After Crime.
Yeah, I know. We didn't get to talk to him about that. But Danelle Hallen was there too. It was great to see her. She's his co-host on Crime After Crime. But Lance, please, before we go, please tell our listeners about the upcoming 5K that is coming up in Reading, Massachusetts very soon.
Yes, so I will. And that was a good lead-in because John Lorden will be running it virtually. I don't know. He's got this super special treadmill that he can connect somehow through the satellites that he's placed in the universe.
Yeah, I heard he's built the treadmill himself.
Yeah, he built the treadmill himself, set up satellites off of the International Space Station, and he's able to recreate the route on his treadmill. So the turns, the elevations, everything's going to be pretty much identical. So he'll be running it virtually on Sunday, September 8th, but you can run it virtually up until the 15th. So even after the race, you can register to run a 5K, and then you submit your time. So the in-person one is in Reading, Massachusetts on Sunday, October 8th. And you can register by going to piftm.org/run. And it is to benefit the nonprofit that we're on, that Bruce Maitland started, Private Investigations for the Missing. All registry fees go towards that nonprofit. You get a T-shirt, get entered into a raffle. And again, if you're not able to do it in person, there's a selection there where you could do it virtually. You seem like, did you have a question about the virtual part?
No, I thought you said September. You can do it until the virtual part until September 15th or something, but either I heard it wrong or you meant October 15th, right?
I don't know what I said. So what I'll say right now is it's October 15th.
Yeah, the virtual.
Although if you want to run it until September 15th of next year, feel free. But the virtual one goes until a week after the in-person one.
Right. Okay, great.
So that's piftm.org/run for you to register. And big thanks to everybody who have registered so far, virtually and in person, and also to everybody who donated. We had a little kind of behind the curtain donation going on to raise money to make the race happen. You got to pay for permits and restroom units and the chip timing, and really don't know what the hell I was thinking by trying to organize this. It's not easy.
Well, I'm sure it'll be a great event, and it's for a great cause. So yeah, check out everything that PIs for the Missing is doing at investigationsforthemissing.org. Of course, that is the nonprofit that Bruce Maitland founded. Oh, and one other thing I wanted to mention, Lance, speaking of Bruce Maitland, Greg Overacker, private investigator and former bounty hunter, Greg Overacker wrote this book. It's called The Hunt for Brianna Maitland, and it has just been published from Bloated Toe Publishing, and there is a link out there. You can find it in our show notes. But Greg Overacker has been on these airwaves many times, speaking about Brianna Maitland's disappearance, Erica Franolich's disappearance, and a little bit about his bounty hunting past. But he gave us these books, and it is what I've read of this book is fantastic so far, so I would highly recommend checking it out. We're going to have him on the show pretty soon to discuss the book as well.
Yeah. And I think, when he first came on and we got to know Greg, we were like, he's a really good storyteller. He's got really good stories, and he tells them very well, and his major one is Brianna Maitland, and he tells that story very well, and I'm so glad to see that I'm so glad to read that it is translating very well to the written word, that he's able to write these stories in the same way that he can tell the stories.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Well, thank you very much for listening. If you like what you heard here on this show, you can get it weekly. It's at Crawlspace Premium. If you're on Apple Podcasts, you can subscribe right there in the app to Crawlspace Premium. It's bundled with Missing and Dark Valley. You get everything ad-free. You get early releases, and you get this weekly bonus show. So check it out. If you're not an Apple user, you can go to crawlspace.supportingcast.fm to sign up for the same product there. So thanks a lot, everybody. We really appreciate it.
We do. And you know what? When you do that, we didn't fill this episode with a bunch of drops. When you do sign up, if you haven't yet, then you will experience our audio drops.
I get the feeling the ratio of our enjoyment of the drops is definitely a different weight than the crowd's enjoyment of the drops. But I don't know.
Is that a drop? Is that a drop?
Yes, there's Jen. It's a drop. Yeah. So I didn't say enjoyment. I said they'd experience it.
True.
Yeah.
All right, everyone.
And wait, Tim. What show got nominated for an award?
Crawlspace.
You
got that right. All right, everyone. Thanks a lot for listening. We really appreciate it.
Play us out.